Let's say you've done the work. You've sat with the belief. You've traced it back. You understand where it came from, why it formed, what it was trying to protect. You can name it now. You can see it operating. You even feel something loosen when you talk about it. And then you go back to your life and nothing has changed. You're not moving. You're not building. You're just sitting with a very clear insight that isn't doing anything. And the natural conclusion is that you must have missed something, that you didn't really get it, that you need to start the belief work over. You didn't miss anything. You're between phases. This is one of the most disorienting moments in the whole process, because everything you were told about insight implied that insight was the destination. See the belief, understand the pattern, get the breakthrough, and then change. As if change were the natural next thing. As if seeing the belief were the same as updating your life. It isn't. And the women I work with hit this moment and almost always interpret it the same way. They think they did the work wrong. Or they think they need a new belief defined. They think that they need a deeper insight, or they need to feel something more. What they actually need is a different phase. Because belief shift removes the obstacle. It doesn't build a structure that goes in the obstacle's place, however. This is the part of the work I want to name clearly today. There's a framework underneath everything I've been talking about for the last 8 videos. It's called the Belief Reconstruction Framework, and it has 4 phases. Ignite is recognition. It's the phase where you start to see that something isn't working and you can't unsee it. Break is loosening. It's the phase where the belief stops feeling like reality and starts feeling like a structure that was built. Breakthrough is permission. It's the phase where something updated becomes possible, not just intellectually, internally. And then there's map. Map is construction. And map is the phase almost no one teaches as a phase. Most reinvention work stops at breakthrough. You see the belief, you feel the permission, and the assumption is that you'll just start living differently now. But identity doesn't reorganize itself like that. It has to be built. The nervous system has to update. The daily decisions have to shift. The relationships have to recalibrate. The environment has to start matching the new internal structure, instead of maintaining the old one. None of that happens by accident. And none of it happens because you had a good insight on a Tuesday. So, what is MAP structurally? It's three things. The first is identity consistent action. Not action that proves the new belief. Not action that performs the new identity. Action that quietly expresses it at the decision level in small, repeated structural choices. Most people, after a belief shift, they look for the big move, the new job, the big conversation, the dramatic pivot. That's not where MAP lives. MAP lives in whether you say yes to the meeting that the old identity would have said yes to automatically. It lives in whether you defend the time you said you protect. It lives in whether the new belief is showing up in the small architecture of the day. The second is tolerating the disorientation of the new identity. Because the first few weeks of living from an updated belief feel wrong. Not because the belief is wrong, because it's unfamiliar. And the nervous system has spent years, decades, equating the familiarity with safety. So when you start operating from a new structure, your body reads it as risk. And the temptation in that moment is to retreat to what's familiar and call it intuition. It isn't intuition, it's familiarity. And learning to tolerate the disorientation without retreating is its own skill. The third is updating the surrounding architecture. Your old identity built a life around itself. Your relationships, your schedule, your commitment, your environment, all of it adapted to the version of you that needed to stay consistent with the old belief. The new identity can't live inside the old architecture. Not for long. Something has to update. Sometimes a relationship, sometimes a role, sometimes a routine. Often something quieter than any of those. That's MAP. Identity consistent action. Tolerating disorientation, updating the architecture. Structural, not tactical. Here's what I want you to take with you. Belief work isn't the destination. Belief work is what makes construction possible. The most common reason midlife reinvention fails is not that women don't see the belief. It's that they see the belief, they feel the breakthrough, and they wait for life to reorganize on its own. It won't. That's not a failure, though. That's just the structure of how identity actually works. Insight loosens, permission opens, construction builds. Each phase has its own job. And if you've been sitting with a clear insight that isn't translating into a different life, you haven't done the work wrong. You've just finished one phase, but you're standing at the entrance of the next one. And no one told you it was a phase. The framework in full is ignite, break, breakthrough, and map. Recognition, loosening, permission, construction. The first 8 videos walk through the diagnostic and mechanism work. This one names the construction phase. And what comes next isn't more belief work. It's identity consistent construction, slowly, structurally, decision by decision. You're not stuck. You're just between phases. And construction is the phase no one taught you was a phase. Be well, everybody.